Good evening. Good evening. Welcome to the Recovery Room podcast, a virtual hospital for the betrayed and brokenhearted. I am your host, your healing agent, Trey Kearney. I am here to help you heal through whether it is heartbreak, whether it's betrayal from a family member, whether it's betrayal from the church, whether it is betrayal from your parents, whether it was heartbreak from your parents. We are here in the recovery room to heal, heal, heal. Please share, 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 share. If this is your first time here, welcome. Betrayal and heartbreak can be devastating, and many people get stuck in the stages of grief. And our topic tonight is the process of death, right? So I'm going to talk about some serious things tonight, and it's only to help you heal. And this may be a little emotional for me. I'm not sure because as I'm going through this journey with you, I am also still going through the process of healing from some things. Like you never really get over the loss of a loved one. Like you never really get over the loss of your mother. And my mother's been gone for I think 18 years now, but it's like yesterday and the holidays are starting to come. So I really wanted to talk about this now because the holidays are approaching and the holidays can be the hardest part of dealing with grief. Even if the person has been gone for 15, 20 years, 30 years, it is so hard during the holidays to know that when Thanksgiving comes, you're not going to see your mother, or you're not going to see your child that you lost, or you're not going to see your brother or your sister that you lost. So I'm here to uplift, motivate, and inspire you to heal. Right now, you have two choices when you are going through the process of a loss, when you are going through the process of death, right? And one is you can die with them or you can live for them. Somebody needs to write that down because a lot of people die with their loved one or they die with that relationship. So we're going to talk about several different types of death, right? We're going to talk about several different types of death because let me just clear this up for some people who may not know this or who have never heard this before. Anytime you have a loss, anytime you have a loss, whether it's the loss of a loved one, whether it's the loss of a relationship, whether it's the loss of a job, your body reacts to it like it's a death and you go through the stages of grief. So we have to learn to identify those stages of grief. And this is why people can't heal and this is why people can't move forward when they experience loss. I'm teaching y'all some stuff that I teach in my coaching but I'm teaching it here in the recovery room because I started the recovery room because many people can't afford coaching. Many people can't afford therapy. Some people are embarrassed to go to therapy. Some people have been told don't go to therapy. Some people feel like they don't want to feel crazy. Some people feel like they just want privacy. So I am here in your living room with you so that you can go through the recovery room and you can begin to heal from some things, right? So every time we have a loss, our body reacts like a death. And the reason why some of us can't get past the healing stage or to the healing stage, or some of us can't heal, or some of us just are stuck in limbo. I'm going to tell you right now why. And before I wouldn't tell us because I didn't want people to steal it, but I want us to heal. I want us to heal as a community. Most of the time, you can't move forward because you are stuck in one of the stages of grief. That just freed somebody tonight. I know it did. I know that just freed somebody tonight. So there are 5 stages of grief, right? So I put shock and denial together because they go hand in hand, shock and denial, right? So I lost my brother in 2020, which every now and then I'm still in shock because the stages of grief will show up in your life over and over again. You just don't want to get stuck in it, right? This is where the healing is delayed when you get stuck in a stage of grief. So every now and then when I hear a song on the radio, like one of the songs that I hear that my brother loved, and the last time we were together, one of the last times we were together, we were singing Just in Case by Jaheim. I cannot listen to Just in Case. I try. It's one of my favorite songs. When I'm in a car, it sends me back to denial and shock because I can't believe that my brother is gone. So there are some things that will make a stage of grief show up, right? So we have to be careful not to get stuck in that stage of grief. So I have to turn the song off so that I can move forward and I'm not stuck in that space for days, hours, months, or however long. It's just a moment. And I don't want us to get stuck in moments. So we have denial, shock and denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and the ultimate stage of grief that we are trying to get to is acceptance, right? And that is the hardest stage to get to because nobody wants to accept loss. So I'm going to share with you some stories right now, or some things, not even stories. I'm going to share with you some things that I had to heal from, some of my losses. And this may sound strange to some people because everybody, when they think of the process of death, they think of a physical death of somebody, but it's not always that, right? So if you know me, if you just tuned in, you're tuned into the recovery room. I'm your healing agent, Trey Kearney. The only person that can heal you is God, but He sent me down on this earth to be your neosporin, to help you walk through this process and to not keep picking the scab or to not keep covering it up, but to let the air get on it. The air is the love of the Lord, to get on that thing and to work through it and to be okay and to admit that I'm hurting, to admit that this is hurting me, to admit that I need help. I didn't get through a lot of things in my life by myself. I had to get help from some people. So one of the things that this is going to really sound strange, but this is going to help my autism moms and dads, right? I am the mother of an autistic son. He's 14 years old. He is the light, one of the lights of my life. I love him. I love him unconditionally. I love him tremendously, right? But I had to mourn the loss of the child that I thought I was getting. And when I think about it, it makes me emotional because so many parents are in denial, are stuck in a stage of grief. And this is why they can't get through this process of loving the child that they were blessed with. They're so busy focusing on the fact that of what they got and not what they were blessed with, right? So I had to, and this is because they haven't mourned the loss of what they thought they were getting, right? So you're in the hospital, it's a baby, you got a baby, you're pregnant, you go through these 9 months and you're excited, and all you're praying for is a healthy baby. And you're like, yes, and then you see the baby, because when the baby, you don't get the diagnosis till about 18 months old, 12 months, 18 months, you start to see things or whatever, but you really don't get the diagnosis until like 2 or 3 years old. And you got the baby and the baby looks normal. And I'm not saying that our children on the spectrum are not normal. They're just not atypical, but we're going to use normal for the sake of context, right? You get the baby looks normal, 10 toes, 10 fingers, beautiful eyes, hair, arms work, everything is good. And then you get the diagnosis because your child doesn't know how to play with a ball, or your child can't relate to other children, or your child is a loner. So you have to, in order to move forward, and this is for anybody with any type of child with special needs. Well, it may not be autism, it may be Down syndrome, it may be delayed speech, whatever it is, you have to go through the process of mourning the loss of the child that you thought you were going to get. There's so many parents who are stuck in a stage of denial, stuck in a stage of shock because why is this happening to me? No, no, no. So many parents don't get the help that their children need. And that is selfish. So many parents, because they're in denial. Oh no, he's just not. Or no, when you see something, you have to say something. Even if it is not autism or even if it's nothing, just consider you're getting your child an early tutor. This is what I tell parents when they have some suspicion. Maybe it's not, but maybe your child needs a little bit of extra help. So some parents get stuck in denial. Some parents get stuck in anger. We start bargaining with God. Let me tell you, because I'm going to tell you the truth. I still bargain with God sometimes when I'm tired. I still bargain with God when we have aggressive moments. I'm still bargaining, right? I'm still, shock and denial still shows up. Bargaining still anger still shows up. The stages of grief will show up. You just don't want to get stuck in one because it will stagnate your healing. It will stagnate you being able to unconditionally love your child. because you're operating through conditions of, I thought I was getting a normal child and now I'm being punished, or this is too hard, or whatever your thought process may be. Once you come to the acceptance part, once you accept that you have a very special child, and perspective is everything, because my baby is smart, my baby is loving, my baby is kind, he is handsome, he is so many things. He just learns differently. So I had to accept my son for who he is, and not for who I thought I was getting. Right. And this is really, and I want to talk about this, and I want to pray for the fathers too, because autism is really hard for fathers because it really affects way more boys than girls, right? And so most fathers, when they say it's a boy, because every man wants a son. Oh, I'm not gonna say every man. So when I say everybody or every, don't take it like every, most men want a son, a namesake to carry the name. Most men want a son to play, be an NBA, NFL player, or a baseball player, a hockey player, to go to the barbershop and give that. And then you get this child, this son that you were not expecting. So, to the brothers, I need you to embrace the blessing and the gift that you got, because it's hard. It really is hard for men. And I'm learning this. So that is one of the things that, one of the processes, one of the stages of grief that I had to go through, right? One of the losses that I had to go through, I should say, the loss of the child that I thought that I was supposed to get. And thank God for the blessing of the child that he blessed me with, because so many women can't have kids. So many women have lost children. So that is one thing I just wanted to help the parents who are going through the diagnosis of getting a child who's on the spectrum, or a child who was nonverbal. My son is 14, doesn't talk, but he knows how to communicate. So I want to encourage, inspire you, and motivate you to just have that moment of grieving the loss of the child that you thought that you were getting, and loving on the blessing that you got. And once you do that, the light will come on for you, and the light will come on for your child, and you will see gifts and talents that you never saw before. Right? This boy is a clean. My son is a cleaning freak. Like, I thought it was my other son. And then I started to notice stuff when my other son's not here. And he don't fold, he like ball the clothes up. But if I leave his clothes, like at night, if he takes his pants off and I put them on the floor, when I get up in the morning, his clothes are on the nightstand. You're welcome, James. His clothes are on the nightstand. And I'm like, and he comes in my room and he straightens up the remote controls on my nightstand. And I'm just like, I know I put those remotes on my bed, but he wants everything in order. So true, my son's dad is in denial. And I want each and every person on here to understand that there is help. If your son's dad is in denial, or you're in denial, or you're stuck in a stage of grief, of anger, or you're stuck in a stage of, a lot of people who have children on the spectrum who don't go through the process of mourning the loss of the child get stuck in a stage of depression. Do you know how many autism moms I see that have let themselves go? I'm like, no, ma'am, because they are stuck in a stage of grief, of depression. And they are everything in their thoughts and their mind is always on the child. And you still have a life, mom and dad. Again, go through the process of grieving the loss of the child that you thought you were going to get, and move forward with the child that you have. Love on the child that you have, and I promise you it'll get better. Now, that was one thing that I had to go through. Now, let's talk about breakups, because we are here in the recovery room. The recovery room is a virtual hospital for the betrayed and brokenhearted, because folks is out here stuck in a stage of grief from a breakup. And I say this often, and if you hear anybody else say it, they stole it from me. A breakup is the death of a relationship. And your body is going through the same process as if you lost somebody physically. Understand that. So when people are going through a breakup, They don't understand what is going on. And I'm here to tell you a breakup is the death of a relationship. And if you don't realize that, you will not be able to move forward because you won't realize that you are stuck in a stage of grief. How many of us have been stuck in denial when somebody break up with us for months? No, you not breaking up with me. This is why you see these crazy ladies and these crazy dudes, and maybe I shouldn't call them crazy. These people who are delusional, who are busting windows out of people's cars and going to people's houses after the breakup because they are stuck in the stage of shock and denial. And all of their emotions, everything is going off at the same time, and they don't know how to process the fact that it's over. These are the people who have not come to acceptance. So they are not only stuck in denial, but they angry. So I need you to understand the process of death and what happens after the death, right? The process of grieving, right? That's what I should be saying. The process of grieving, right? So you could be stuck or going through several stages of grief. You could be in denial, anger, and depression all at the same time. This is why we have to process the death. This is why we have to process the death of the relationship. Healing is a process, and you have to process these things so that you can work through one at a time, right? First of all, we got to get through denial. We got to accept the fact that the relationship is over. Okay? We have to accept the fact that the relation, that's the first. Can we got to accept that, because you're going to have to accept a lot of things when you're going through a breakup, especially the person who does not want to break up. I'm not judging because I've been you. I'm not judging because I was with somebody that was with somebody else that I knew was cheating, that was with somebody else that was trying to move on from me. But I refused to accept the fact that the relationship was over. Because every time I felt like I was accepting the fact that the relationship was over, my body was telling me and reacting like somebody had died. And I did not want to go through the process of the loss, which made me stay with somebody who clearly showed me that they did not want me. And now that I'm in a different place in my life, I look back on that journey and I say, wow, this person actually had moved on. And let me say this to people, and for the sake of him not wanting to ghost me, right? Or set a boundary, because we say people are ghosting us, but he really had moved on and I really kept pursuing him. So he felt like he needed to call me. And then we had a kid together. So he felt like he needed to do certain things. And instead of me letting go, I bargained not only with the Lord, but with him. This is therapy tonight because I'm telling y'all stuff I ain't never told nobody before. I knew he had moved on, but I was in a phase in my life of, oh no, this is not happening. This is not, I'm not about to. And then I got stuck in depression, which I wanted the depression to stop. So I thought I needed him to make the depression stop. So I was like, oh no, we're not. You're gonna come back. You gonna be with me because I'm not going to go through this anger. This I want the shock and denial. I want the anger, I want the bargaining, I want the depression to stop. So instead of me going through the process of getting to acceptance without him being there, I wanted him to fix it. And the only way I felt like he could fix that was to be with me, which made me not feel denial, anger, bargaining, and depression, which kept me in it with him way too long when he had moved on with something. He was living with somebody else. He was lying though, but that's a whole nother story. But I knew I was lying to myself. I was like, that's not what's happening. And then let me tell you, I won't put this out there because I don't want no problems in his family, because somebody in his family kind of sort of told me, like, ma'am, you deserve better than this. Like, wake up. I need you to accept that they moved on. You smarter than this. And it was a family member that loved me. So they was his family member. So they didn't want to betray him. But they like, he lived with somebody. Do you know he lived? They didn't tell me, but they gave me some clues. And I'm like, I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear it. And then finally, I got to the place where I heard it. But then I had been pursuing him so long to come back to me that now he had got reattached to me. So that he started pursuing me. So when I was ready to move on, he was pursuing me because I had pursued him to get over the breakup. I needed him to be the cushion to get me over the breakup. And then when I had accepted and said to him, don't come back here no more, I'm done with this, he needed me to be the cushion of his breakup. That's a whole nother thing. But I'm telling y'all, and a breakup is the death of a relationship, right? And the hard thing about the death of a relationship is this: when we lose a loved one, I'm sorry, let me slow. Am I going too fast? Let me slow down because I get passionate in this space because I want my folks to heal. When we lose a loved one, we know that eventually we're going to have to accept it because we can't bring them back. When we lose a person physically to death, a real death, when there's no more breath in their body and they're in the spirit, we know that we have to accept the fact that eventually that this person is gone and we can't bring them back. The horrible thing about the death of a relationship is the person is alive and well and denying access to you. So now you're going through all this of what do you think you're doing and who do you think you are and what's wrong with me and why would you do this to me? You are alive and kicking. And let me tell you one thing that got me finally through the breakup with one of my exes. And we're not here to throw anybody under the bus because everybody has moved on and grown now and everything. One day I was just crying my eyes out. I mean, I was bawling. I mean, bawling my eyeballs out. And then I thought to myself, why are you crying for him? You could pick up the phone and call him. He's not far away. He was only 10 minutes away, living 10 minutes away, maybe 15. And I said to myself, you should be crying for your mother because you're never going to see her again. And something snapped in me. And that's where the acceptance came in because I was like, you could pick up the phone and call him. Why is you tripping? And if you offered the right thing, he will come over. So what are you doing? So if you are going through the devastation of a breakup, and I had got a coach too. Don't think I did this by myself. I got a coach and I did some therapy because I needed help to process this. But along my journey, what I learned was the reason why I couldn't begin the healing process from the breakup. And again, a breakup is the death of a relationship. The reason why I couldn't begin the healing process and get to acceptance is because I was stuck in a stage of grief. I was stuck in depression. And when I figured out what stage of grief I was stuck in, I was able to move forward, right? When I figured out I was stuck in denial and I accepted that, you know what? He's sleeping with somebody else. He done slept with a few other people. He done cheated on you. He didn't you are in denial of who this person is, right? You thought this person was somebody that they're not. That's a whole nother thing. We don't actually miss the person. We miss who we had pictured the person to be. And they're not that. So we have to learn to stop fantasizing, romanticizing people who shown you who they are and they're not who you wanted them to be. So you have this picture in your head. So once I got a denial of who he wasn't, right? When I accepted who he was, this person needed to grow up. This person needed help. This person wasn't ready to be nobody's husband, as I was not ready to be nobody's wife. I was able to move forward. And then when I stopped being angry with him, and this just happened not too long ago. This happened not too long ago because I was angry. Let me see. I was angry for a long time. Thank you. So once I was able to accept him for who he was and understanding that anger in this breakup wasn't working for me, I was able to be like, I'm not going to be mad because it's only hurting me. So I started to go through the stages of grief and I started to work on one stage at a time. right? And then when I finally got to understanding that my emotions were all over the place because I was in denial, I was in anger, I was in bargaining, and I was in depression all at the same time. So when denial got off the table, I was able to process the fact that it was over. I'm not going to be angry anymore. But then I was kind of sort of depressed because I felt like I was by myself. We had a child together. There was some things going on. We were having some issues with co-parenting. So when I got through all of this, and I said, you know what, I'm going to choose to be happy. First, I had to choose to get the help that I needed. Then I said, I'm going to choose to be happy. I don't feel like being depressed anymore. It's over. He done moved on. I don't like the person that he is. And I'm going to move forward and I'm going to go live and I'm going to still believe in love. And I took a lot of time. This is what some people need to do too. I'm encouraging you to take time to heal before you get into another relationship with somebody else. Because if you don't, the worst thing that you could do to a person that you say you love is not go through this process of healing before you bring them into your life. Because if you don't deal with this, if you don't deal with the death of that relationship, it will continue to deal with you and it will show up in your new relationship. The person who you will bleed on, a person who did not cut you, and not on purpose. But people don't take time to heal because people want to get under somebody to get over somebody. And that's not the way this thing works. Getting under somebody only buries your emotions. Getting under somebody only puts a band-aid on what it is that you need to deal with, only to be triggered by the person that you got under and to treat them a certain way for something they never did to you. You was already broken, bruised, and battered when you came into this relationship. And I'm talking about mentally and psychologically broken, bruised, and battered when you came into this relationship. And this person does not need to deal with that. You need to go deal with yourself. And let me tell you, being by yourself is a beautiful thing. And if you don't want to be by yourself, I need you to understand, if you don't like you, why do you expect other people to like you? If you don't want to be with you, why do you expect other people to want to be with you? Go find out why you don't want to be by yourself. Go find out what it is that you don't want to think about. Because a lot of times we don't want to be in solitude because silence makes us think about things, makes us think about ourselves, makes us have take a look in the mirror at who we are. So I would encourage you. I was single for 4 years before I dated anybody else. And I was cool with it. And people was like, why are you single? Like, you cute, you got this going on, you got that going on. And let me tell you something too. I wasn't getting a lot of people asking me out because people think, Trey, your DMs must be flooded. Listen, let me tell you something. Men go on my page and they hear what I'm about. So my DMs don't be flooded because they like, she not about the foolishness. And number two, God be hiding me from the foolishness. He like, go sit. Go sit yourself down because you not ready. You still in depression, anger, these things are still showing up and you need to go deal with them. So I want to tell you, each and every person on here, to deal with yourself, to take time to heal, because a breakup is the death of a relationship. Okay? So I want us to just promise ourselves that whenever we go through a loss, we are going to go through the healing process. We are going to take time to heal before we go moving on to other people who we expect to heal us, because then we put pressure on people in the relationship that we're in to heal us, to make us feel better. No, happiness is an inside job. It is no one else's job to make you happy. Now, it ain't nobody's job to make you miserable either. But it is your job to be happy when you come into a relationship, happy, whole, and healed. Because when you move on and you're not happy, whole, and healed, guess what the person is that you're dating now? If you don't deal with the death of this relationship, guess who you're dating? Guess what that person has just become? A void filler. A void filler. And nothing, they nothing else to you. You don't love that person. You love the void that they feel. You love the fact that you don't feel lonely anymore. You love the fact that somebody's laying next to you. You love the fact that you don't have to work on yourself. That person is nothing but a void filler. And you won't even that won't even last. And when that breaks down, being that you're not whole, healed, and happy, that person's going to take that piece of them, that piece of you with them. And it's going to feel like a drain, like a balloon busted, right? So I'll say this about my last relationship. And again, this is not to throw anybody under the bus, but only way that I could tell y'all is to tell y'all. My last relationship, when we broke up, I was okay. I was sad because I'm a human. I loved him. I liked him. We was cool. He was a cool dude. I really liked him. And I was more upset because I lost my friend than a lover, right? So that's why I was more upset. But when he came into my life, he was not filling a void for me, right? He was not, I could provide for myself. I wasn't looking for a daddy for my kids. I wasn't looking for a roof over my head. I wasn't looking for a daddy figure for me. I didn't have any voids, right? Because I told you I was single for 4 years. So I had worked on myself. So I was whole, happy, and healed when he came into my life. He gave me companionship. He was kind of sort of the cherry on the top for that season in my life. So when we broke up, I wasn't devastated like the last one. Now, the last one, I really was bad off because he was filling voids in my life, right? Let me tell y'all, because this gonna free some of the children, and I'm here because you're in the recovery room, a virtual hospital for the betrayed and brokenhearted, right? And betrayal hurts so bad because betrayal always comes from somebody you loved, trusted, and gave close proximity to you. So betrayal hurts, heartbreak hurts because you love the person. Yes, real talk. Let me tell y'all something. He filled the void. The other guy that I was devastated when we was going back and forth because I was trying to force him to be with me. Basically, he had really showed me he didn't want to be with me, but I was in denial. I was stuck in the stage of grief. I was stuck in denial for about 2 years. Oh my goodness. For 2 years. I didn't even want this person. I just wanted this person to pick me, right? I wanted him to pick me. And after he picked me, I didn't want him. But then he was pursuing me, so I felt some kind of obligation to him, right? So it was like, pick me, please pick me. What's wrong with me? Because I had daddy issues. Because my biological father, God bless him, he's 83. Is he 83? 83 years old, and he still lives in California. My father loves me. Loves me. He wasn't in my life because I got caught in the crossfire of my mother and father's divorce. My mother's a Jersey girl. When they divorced, she left California, took her 5 babies, came and lived with her sister. And my father just said, you know what? And it was infidelity. My mother cheated on my father. There was a baby that came out of it. So my father processed things the way that he could. And he stayed away from what was hurting him. And I had to go through the process because I did the same thing that my mother did with my marriage. Check it. I went out and cheated and stuff too. So I was able to understand that my father needed to process the pain of his wife cheating on him and having a baby by another dude that had a baby with her sister. It was a lot, but I didn't notice as a young woman until I became an adult and I went through the process of therapy and coaching to process these things in my mind, that I wanted my ex, not the last one, but the one before him. I wanted him to prove to me that he would not leave, because if my father didn't think I was worthy, somebody was going to stay with me forever. Let me tell y'all something else. Because when we are staying with people, listen, if you are staying with somebody and you know they're cheating on you, you're staying with somebody, you know they're not nice to you, they're verbally abusive, they do whatever they want to do, they out in the streets and you don't like it and they won't change it for you, and you're staying and compromising your happiness, what void are they filling? I'm asking you that question because I need you to ask yourself that question so you could really get on a healing journey. What void are they filling? So let me tell y'all another little secret that the void that my ex was filling. He was good in bed. And I thought that was the end all be all. It was not going to be none like him no more. But that's a lie too. So for y'all that's with the man, because the eggplant is planting or the head is heading or whatever is going on with your body and you're staying for physical reasons, there's somebody better out there and he'll marry you. But it's you. It was me. It wasn't him. It was me, right? He was filling these voids in my life. He was making me feel good. And the Bible says our feelings are wicked. We can't go by our feelings because our feelings will lead us down a dead end in a ditch off of a mountain because it feels good. How many people do you know died bungee jumping or jumping out of planes because they wanted to feel good? Everything that feels good is not good for you. Everything that tastes good is not good for you. So we have to really figure out when we are going through the process of death. And a breakup is the death of a relationship. And if you're stuck in it, what stage of grief are you stuck in? Number one. And number two, what void is that person filling? Because I'm telling you, if you don't figure this out, when you go to the next relationship, you are going to entertain the same type of person because they're going to fill the same void that you're trying to fill, right? You hear people say this: I keep attracting the same type of man. I keep attracting the same type of woman. No, you're not attracting the same type of anything. You're entertaining those things too long because they fill a void. So if you got a daddy issue and you ain't dealt with it, you're going to forever continue to look at older men and you're going to, why do I always end up with older men? Because baby, you're looking for your dad. You looking for your, why am I so attracted to older women? Because your mama left you with your grandmother and you're looking for a mother figure. You're looking for the nurturing that you never got from your mama. And you got to be able to admit that. So that's denial. Oh, I keep attracting the same. No, you keep entertaining those people who fill the voids in you that you're not willing to work on. I done went on my soapbox. So I had to mourn the loss. I'm reiterating what I said. What's the word I'm looking for? I'm doing a recap of what we talked about for the people who just came in. Couldn't think of the word, but I'm doing a recap. You just tuned in. You tuned into the recovery room, a virtual hospital for the betrayed and brokenhearted. And we're talking about the process of death and how to heal from the different types of death, because death is not only physical death. Any loss that you go through is a death to your body and your mind. Your mind tells you that you're going through a death, right? And you start to go through the process of grieving, the stages of grief: denial and shock, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance. Even if you lost your job, you like in denial, like, I know these people didn't fire me after I gave them 23 years of my life. And then you're angry, right? Because it's a loss. Then you're depressed. And then you're bargaining with God. God, please let them call me back. I can go work this amount of hours. Let me call the boss. Let me call my supervisor. So you go into bargaining and denial until you get to acceptance. I accept that they didn't want me there, that it's time for me to move on. You start to look for another job. But every loss is a death, and you will go through the stages of grief because your body will respond that way, right? So the first thing I said is I had to go through the process of grief, and I had to grieve the loss of the son that I thought I was getting, because my son has autism, and I thought I was getting, quote unquote, a normal child, an atypical child, and I got a child on the spectrum. So I had to mourn the loss of my son and go through the grieving process to be able to accept him for who he is and for the blessing that I received from God. Number two, a breakup is the death of a relationship, and you have to go through the grieving stages to get to acceptance, and you have to go work on yourself so that you are whole, healed, and happy, so there are no voids for other people to fill to kill you when they leave you the next time. Come on, Jesus. If it's another breakup, the last breakup I went through, I'm telling you, I was a couple months, and I mean, it wasn't like I'm dying, cried a couple times, heard a couple songs when I was out, broke down, but it was nothing like the last breakup because I was whole, healed, and happy when that man walked into my life. And he didn't pull the plug and take a piece of me with him because he didn't own no parts of me. And baby, it took me some time, it took me a couple months because I'm human, because I loved him, I liked him, and I was in shock that the way things went down, but I was able to accept it much faster. And the last thing was the process of death, watching my mother die from breast cancer. I don't know if you've ever been through the process of death with a loved one who has been diagnosed, and you know, right? When they give you the diagnosis of, oh, it's breast cancer, and we're going to try to do chemo and everything and remove the breast and all of that. And you have the hope and the faith of the Lord. And then you get that call a year later, 2 years later, whatever, and you see the person deteriorating, right? And you see the process of death happening in front of you. And you got to be strong for the person, and you got to love this person, and you got to love this person so much that you can't let them see you being weak and depressed and scared, right? So I was my mother's lifeline to healing, because if I was feeling defeated, she felt defeated. And then you get that phone call that there's nothing else we can do, and you need to call hospice because we're not treating her anymore, basically. And you're like, come again? You're not doing what? Oh, you're gonna treat her some more. And they tell you that there's nothing else we can give her. We tried all of the latest test, what did the test, they didn't tested her and used her, all the experimental drugs. Like, we've tried everything, and you know, this is it. So then you watch this person and you give them their medication. And my mother was really ill. And when they removed her breast, it never healed. So it was an open, it never even began to heal because the cancer was so far gone and her body had an infection. She had got an infection. So it wouldn't heal. Like, antibiotics wasn't healing it. So I had to just keep it clean, right? An open wound in my mother's, just an open sore. Just the breast is gone, it's open, and it's just pussy and it's just raw. And I had to clean it 3 times a day with saline and cover it with gauze. And I had to medicate her so it wouldn't be painful when I cleaned it. And I had to go through, listen to this. This is so deep. I was gone grieving the loss of my mother while my mother was transitioning. So I was going through denial. Like, no, she's not dying. Like, but I'm seeing her dying before my eyes. But I'm like, no, she's not dying. So I was in shock and denial while caring for my mother. Right. And then I was bargaining with God. So I had to go through the process of grieving twice. So I was bargaining with God, like, God, you know what? I'll do anything if you turn this around. And then I was angry with God because I'm praying, God, and you are a healer, and I'm listen, you getting on my nerve. I don't know what this is. I'm going to church. I'm giving her medication. She's doing what she's supposed to do. What is this? So I was angry. Then I was depressed, and I couldn't be depressed in front of my mother. So I went through the grieving process of losing my mom while the process of death was happening in front of my face. Right? So I want anybody on here who's going through that process. I want you to know that you need help. Right? You need help. And then after, I don't know if anybody here has been through hospice, and I don't know if it's the same process anymore where they give you the book. I don't know that they give you the book. Oh, same story with my dad. Yes, Foxy, come on. And we haven't talked about this to anybody. So when I talk to people and they say same thing with me, same thing, truth plus transparency equals healing. And not only for me, but for the people who are tuned in and watching, to know that you're not alone. It's a horrible thing to watch the person, one of the strongest people in your life, become the weakest person, and them depending on you to wipe them, to feed them when they were strong, and you know this is not what they wanted. So we have to really get the help that we need. So I don't know if they still give the hospice book, right? So I had called the hospice people and I was like, hey, because it felt like my mother was choking. Like I don't I know some other people have heard that they call it the dead man's rattle or something. I forgot what they told me it was or whatever. But I called the hospice people like, hey, my mother is, I'm running in there all night because I'm thinking she's gonna choke to death. And they like, no, she's not gonna choke to death. It's just it's the spit, whatever. So they were like, you know what, we'll see you tomorrow. They said, here, take this book and read this book for the next few days because your mother's going through the process of death. And you need to know what that looks like now. And I'm like, what? What is you talking about? They were like, just read the book. So I read the book and it talked about how the body is starting to shut down and the different things. And then the last chapter of the book was somebody has to give your loved one permission to go. Excuse me. But what is you talking about? I don't even know what you mean by that. They said somebody's just gonna have to tell your mom that it's okay, that everything's okay, everybody's okay. And I'm like, and then what's gonna happen? And then they said, well, she's gonna transition once she knows she has permission. I'm like, I'm not about to go in there and tell my mother to die. Like, are you crazy? But then my heart to watch my mom in that condition, the love that I have for her, because this is now at this point my mom can't talk anymore. My mom can't talk. She's not talking. She's just laying there. She opening her eyes sometimes, but most of the time she's asleep. And she's looking at me and she's just looking at me like she's just looking at me for hope. And I'm just looking at her because she don't talk no more. And I'm just like, are you in pain? And she can't tell me. And I'm just like, what can I do? Like, what am I doing here? Are you okay? Like, now I need her to tell me to release her. And then she's looking at me and I could see that she wanted the permission. So I had to do the most selfless thing in my life. Because we are selfish human beings. And we want our mother and we want our kids and we want our family. So I had to tell her that it was okay, that she did a good job as a mother. She was a good human being. And then I read her favorite scripture, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. And I just sat there, right? And after I told her, after I said, it's okay, everybody's going to be okay, my mother literally was gone within 2 minutes. Like, she looked at me and nobody was in the room with me. And I'm so mad that nobody was in the room with me because my mother's eyes, right? Listen. And I wish somebody was in the room with me because I could not believe what I saw. My mother's eyes bulged out of her head. Like, I mean, like my mother's eyes popped out of her head. They went back in, but they bulged out of her head. And I was like, what? What in the world? And they went back. And then her breathing just started to get shallow. And then, I mean, within 2 minutes, she closed her eyes and she cried. When her eyes bulged, she cried because she couldn't talk anymore, right? And then the breathing got shallow. She closed her eyes and it was peaceful. And then I called my aunties in the room. It wasn't peaceful no more because they got the screaming and the hollering and the hooting and just Black folks. They started screaming and I'm just like, hey, just please. This is not what I need right now. But those her sisters. So I couldn't be mad. So they was just screaming and, falling out. And I was just, I'm trying to hold them together. So another thing about that part of the process of death is the person who was the caregiver, or the person who was the head of the family or the person who's the head of planning the services and all that, we never get the opportunity to mourn. I just recently like really started to mourn my mother's death. Like I never really cried because I had stuff to do. Okay. I don't know about the rest of y'all who were the caregiver or the oldest sister. And I'm not the oldest sister, but I'm the one that was with my mother, or the oldest son. But I didn't have time to mourn. I got funeral arrangements. I got a house to clean out. I got stuff to give away. Like, I don't have time for none of this. I have people to call. And, it was just a lot. But I'm encouraging us as the caregivers who have really watched the process of death, who has really had and I just thank God that we have, when we get a diagnosis, not that we want one, but sudden death is so much worse. All death is bad. But to be able to go through the process and take care of the person that you love and be able to say, I love you, and to tell each other stories and go to chemo with them or to go to dialysis or to wherever, like just to be able to know that even sometimes people last 7 years, 10 years, 2 years, 1 year, whatever that process is, at least we have the opportunity to spend time and love on that person. So I'm just encouraging those of us who are caregivers to get the care that you deserve, to get the care that you deserve. I'm just encouraging you to go and get the coaching, the counseling, the therapy, the pastoral care. I'm just encouraging you to go to somebody now, because there's a lot of us who are stuck in a stage of grief, which is depression, because we never took the time to even go through the stages of grief. We never took the time to go through shock and denial. We never took the time to go to through anger. We never took the time to go through bargaining, and we just went straight to depression because we didn't take the time to mourn. So a lot of people have never really reached the space of acceptance that our loved one is gone. So that's why the holidays are terrible, right? That's why, you really can't get past what it is that you need to get past, because you didn't get the help that you deserve. So it is time for us to start to wrap this thing up. But I really want you guys to understand that there is a process of death in every loss that you go through, right? The death of a relationship, the death of a job, the death of a child, the death of a sibling, the death of a parent. There is a process that we all need to go through, the healing process. And we have to acknowledge that every loss is a death, and we're going to go through the grieving stages as if we physically lost someone. And so many of us don't realize that. And so many of us are suffering. And I want you to ask yourself, if you are going through a relationship loss, or if a relationship is over, and I know the holidays is coming. I told y'all it was very important for me to talk about this because Thanksgiving is on our heels. Christmas is on our heels. New Year's is on our heels. This is the worst time for grieving for a lot of people, because the holidays bust open our wounds. But if you're healed properly, I'm not saying that you won't miss the person. I'm just saying it'll be a little bit different, because you have two choices when you have a loss. See, you can either die with it or you could live for them. You can either die for them or you could live for them. You can either die with it or you could live through it. So many people die with the loss of their job because it was part of their identity. That's not who you are. That job don't define you. So many people die from things that are not even, they're external things. And I want you to look internally and know that you are blessed and highly favored. If you just tuned in, you're tuned into the Recovery Room podcast. I'm your healing agent, Trey Kearney. You can find me at www.treykearney.com. If you would like to advertise with us, shoot me an email at info@treykearney.com, info@treykearney.com. If you need help going through the process of a loss, a death, a betrayal, the loss of a child, the loss of a job, I'm a certified life and relationship coach on a Recovery Room podcast. I am your healing agent. God is the healer, and I am the neosporin that he sent down because we need to talk about these things. Truth plus transparency equals healing. And I just need us to really heal. And I don't need us to be stuck in a stage of grief because it's not necessary. So if you have any questions, comments, thoughts, reactions, please shoot me an email over to trey@treykearney.com and I will answer your questions. I will talk about it on the next podcast. If you are struggling from the loss of a loved one and you need help, please do not go through it alone. If you are feeling suicidal, please call a suicide hotline. If somebody could put that in the chat, if you could just Google it really quickly. Hold on. I have my other phone right here because I'm about healing and I don't want nobody to feel any kind of way. Oops. I need my glasses. Oh, there's a 988 number. If you are feeling any type of way and you really need help, you can dial 988. It's the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. The hours are available 24 hours a day. 988. You don't have to go through this alone. And the loss of a relationship, the loss of a loved one, getting a diagnosis for your child that your child has cancer, getting a diagnosis that your child has Down syndrome, that your child has autism. This is trauma. This is trauma to our heart, our body, our soul, and our spirit. And we have to get the help that we need. And a lot of people are going through depression, anxiety, and suicidal thoughts because they're not getting the help that they need. Don't ever, ever feel bad about needing help. So I thank y'all so much for tuning into the Recovery Room podcast. I'm here every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The Recovery Room is a virtual hospital for the betrayed and brokenhearted, for those who are ready to heal, for those who are just ready to heal, for those who have been stuck in a stage of grief for far too long, for those who are trying to fill voids with people, places, and things that are no longer serving them. Listen, you have to be whole, healed, and happy in this lifetime so void fillers don't take advantage of you. Just like a shark could smell blood in the water, a void filler can see your voids and take advantage of you. This is why so many men and women get taken advantage of on jobs. Just think about a job that takes advantage of you because they know you have a void that you need money. They know you live paycheck to paycheck. So they're going to take advantage of you because they know that you're not going to quit that job. That's why you need to be whole, healed, happy, and prepared. So people can't take advantage of you. This is why we all should be starting a business, a side hustle. I'm not telling you to quit that good job that got them benefits. I'm just telling you when that good job that got them benefits started to treat you real bad, you have some options. We don't need to be unhappy. We don't need to work in places where we're unhappy because those places cause us depression. Those places cause us grief, and we don't need that. God said that I come that you would have life and life to the full. The Bible says the enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy, but the B clause says that I come that you would have life and life to the full. I come that you would have an abundant life. I come to prosper you and not to harm you. But you, my friend, have to take care of you. God has already called it that you will win in the end. God has already called it. The cards are stacked in your favor. Let me tell you something. You got the best trainer in your corner. He's undefeated. He has never lost a battle. When you got the best trainer in the corner, he got all of the belts and he's undefeated. He is the vine and we are the branches. And as long as we stay connected to him, there is nothing impossible because there is nothing too hard for God. But you have to be responsible for the things that he has given you. So I love y'all and I got to go. Remember what I tell you at the end of all my broadcasts. And remember, listen, this was my favorite scripture when I was going through my go-through. Psalm 147:3. He heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds. Psalm 147:3. He heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds. God says, meditate on his word day and night. And when I could not sleep, when I was depressed, when I was lonely, when I was broken, all I had was Psalm 147:3. He heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds. He heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds. That's how I slept. That's how I ate. That's how I live. I meditated on his word day and night, and I began to heal. So remember Psalm 147:3. He heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds. And remember what I tell you at the end of all my broadcasts. You deserve the best. Yes, I'm talking to you. You deserve the best. Now go get it. Peace and blessings. I love y'all. And I will see y'all next Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the Recovery Room podcast.